Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I am very grateful that y'all have joined us today and are interested in taking a look at our coral. So, the first thing that I like to do is explain to people where our name comes from, because I think that's a very important part that speaks to who we are and what we're doing. So, if you think of the name Our Coral, archiving the chorus of life. We all dance to a different beat and they're all relevant. So we try to be as inclusive and as encompassing of everything that you could possibly think of, every culture that's out there. We are building this to solve my problem. And hopefully, along the way, our community will help us solve theirs as well. So that is our goal. We are driven by you if you look under our logo. I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation, and we're going to tell you what we're going to do today. So today's talk is an introduction to our coral. We're going to do a complete overview for you. We're going to talk a little bit about why we came and what we're going to do. So let's get started. Okay, so this is our agenda for the day. We are going to talk about why our coral was created. What is the driving force behind it? We're going to talk a little bit about profile and media based. So that's what we like to explain this application as. We are not a tree based application, even though we will be including trees very shortly. We are profile and media based, and we're going to talk about what that means and how that works in our environment. So then we're going to slide on over to the application, and we're going to take a look at our person profiles. We're going to talk about capturing events without media, how to use that as placeholders. We're also going to take a look at our unique date picker. Then we're going to look at linking profiles. That is kind of the secret sauce about what makes our coral a cyclical application and makes your whole archive come to life. We're then going to look at attaching media, which is bulk indexing, so that you don't have to go through each individual piece of media. We have lots of ways for you to bulk index. Then we're going to move over to location profiles, and we're going to explore what you can capture about a location. We think that they're just as important as the people because they interact with each other, as you well know. So we'll explore those. And we'll look at our address locator. This is a very unique thing that we've created that allows you to attach vintage addresses with current addresses and keep that whole boundary change and what have you in place. Then we're going to discover the connectivity of profile cards. So I had mentioned earlier that profile and media based allows your archive to be cyclical. So we're going to discover exactly how that works. Then we're going to explore our media collections. So we're going to start from the profile side, and then we're going to move to the media side. We're going to look at bulk indexing media collections, and we're going to look at individual indexing from the media indexer. Yeah, you keep hearing me say the word indexer. We are a legacy application, so we have chosen to be an indexed application as opposed to tagging so that it can stay current and relevant for future generations. You don't have to give them the cheat sheet of what all of your tags are. And I'll show you how easy that is. It sounds complicated, but I promise you it's not. Then when we come back from the application, I'm going to show you our relationship builder. We carry over 14,000 different relationship types. It's not just your family, it's also your fan club. So your friends, associates, and neighbors, they're all important. So we're going to show you how to bring them on in. Okay, so let's get started with what was the problem we were trying to solve? Why did we build our coral? Well, the origin story is really what's necessary to get you to understand the magnitude of the problem we were trying to solve. So myself, I had two family branches of farmers. My maternal and paternal grew up on opposite sides of the river. So that was multiple generations growing up in the same area. They all had pieces of their life on these two properties. And if you know anything about farmers, we don't throw anything away. So what the original founders of those lands brought with them were still there, along with all of the things that were required from each generation. Unfortunately, California is not a farmer-friendly state. So when we decided to sell, I couldn't throw everything away. I packed it all up, loaded it, and transported it to Atlanta, Georgia. So now I have 2 ranches and multiple generations of stuff that I had to figure out what to do with. So I inherited a problem. It's a blessing because a lot of people I know don't have the quantity of history that I have, but it also became a problem. So the storage units weren't conducive to making discoveries. I couldn't get in there and I couldn't figure things out and sort through it. So I started bringing just the media home and digitizing it. But I couldn't figure out how to organize my files. My file naming construction just seemed really, really daunting. I'm working with my mom and she's telling me all these stories and all of the tags, trying to keep them straight. Everything was just really impossible to capture when I was doing it all at once. So I started researching options. I went to conferences. I looked at programs and applications and sharing sites. I basically just explored for years trying to find something, but I couldn't find that one application that did everything that I wanted. So then I met Laverne and I told her my dream and we started mapping out our coral. So that whole process led to the solution. We rented a warehouse, we cleaned it up, and then we moved all of the stored contents into that ginormous warehouse. But what I had to do next was start putting in shelves and sorting them back out to family branches. Since everything was on those 2 pieces of property, all of the generations became blended together, and I needed to figure out the origin of each one of those individual pieces. So while I'm doing this, I'm texting and I'm emailing and I'm photo sharing with my family, trying to figure out, was this grandma's or great grandma's or great great grandma's? It was overwhelming. And so mom and I said, okay, we started to map out our coral and what we want an application to do. But what we need to do first is just digitize everything. So as I started unpacking the boxes, every piece that came out of a box got fully photographed. The media got fully scanned and digitized. Then I was in a holding pattern waiting for our coral. So that's what we did, is we built an app to hold it all, to hold all of those artifacts, all of those documents, those photos, to make everything talk to each other. That's what the idea was. I was laying out these family sections and I began to see all of these stories take shape. The textures began to reveal themselves because as I'm putting those families back together, I'm starting to see what was important to them. What did they keep? What were their books? What were their records? What were their dishes? And it started to really show me the personalities of each one of my relationships. But what I also started to realize is that no person's story was discovered in a chronological order. The timeline of their life, the texture of those personalities, the relationships to their friends, their family, their community, all came at me sporadically. And that's just the way that our research comes at us as well. No one is ever lucky enough to do research on someone that starts from the roots to the trunk, the branch to the leaves. It all happens sporadically. So we had to make sure that our application handled that. And in all of my texting and my emailing and my phone calls with family, I really began to realize that they all remembered different pieces of history. They all had different viewpoints of even the same event, the same memory. They all had different pieces of information. Some remembered addresses, some remembered names. Everybody's brain works differently. So I needed a way to curate all of that information into my archive and make it alive. So our coral was built to solve my problem, and it continues to grow to help you solve yours. We've had some amazing community interaction already, and we're prepped with some really great new releases that are coming out over the next couple of weeks. And we just want to continue building and making something beautiful. So how's it work? Let me tell you how it works. We are profile and media based, centered on indexing. So let's take a look at what that looks like. We're going to start with profiles. Profile cards hold the summaries and form the connections. If you think about every time you enter a person into your archive and you create a profile for them, we're going to give you this profile card. And if you think about that card, it makes all of the connections. And it also holds all of the curated information throughout your entire archive. So no matter where it is, where it's from, what piece of media brought you that information, it gets curated to their profile page. It's timeline events, it's alternate names, vital statistics, relationships. Remember, even family and fan club. Storytelling. There's a really wonderful storytelling that I'll share with you when we go to the application. And then also all of the linked media, obviously. But the great thing about profile cards is all of these sections hold information with or without media. You can just go in there and put in as much as you know and give yourself some thoughts on what you want to continue to research or discover, and we'll hold all that in order for you. The next profile that we have is a location profile card. It also makes all of the connections and it curates information. So they have their own style profile page for locations. And if you look at some of these cards that I've made, some of them are entire high schools, some of them are cities, some of them are homes. It can be as grand or as minute as you want it to be, as you feel like tracking your family at what level. So our profile pages for locations have lineage, who owned it, when, what was the deal, address history, modifications. They do evolve through time. The location type also evolves. The related people, that's a really fun part that we're going to show you today. Those related people to locations is part of that cyclical arrangement that I was mentioning. Timeline events for a location, as well as the storytelling and all of its linked media. And again, here, you can also create sections with the information, but without the media. All right. So that's profile cards. That's a lot to take in. So I'm going to give you some more. We're going to look at media. So media connects to multiple things, and it gives you clues in the most random ways. And you want to be able to absorb all of that information and connect all of that information without having to do an exorbitant amount of work. So we're going to look at our collections. This is how we organize media, by collections in Archoral. So we have family collections. If you think about family, they come at you just as randomly as everything else does. So I like to make my collections by each family branch. That way I can put all of the media in each one of those. And when I'm at Thanksgiving and I want to open just these collections to look at them, or these collections to look at them, I can do that without being distracted by the others. We also have topic related collections. And again, collections are what you want to make them. This is just kind of how we like to guide you in the process. So things like, what if you have a car collection, or your dad was a big hot rod guy? What if your aunt or your uncle was an artist? Your family heirlooms, all of that stuff that you have. Maybe one of your relatives had a bakery business, or bred horses, or maybe grandpa built furniture, and you want to have those in their own collections, but you still want them to interact with other things. So that's kind of what makes our collections really unique, is you have multiple connections. You have photographs or letters or documents that have to do with multiple people in those multiple branches. So things like family celebrations, you're going to have maternal side, paternal side. When you have neighborhood gatherings, you're going to have friends, family, neighbors, all of that in one spot, in one image. What about your friends and your classmates? Those great class photos, they are connected to so many people. So what do you do? Where do you put that photo? That's the one question that I got asked by people and asked myself to others, is whose folder do I put it in? And that drove me bananas, because I had to make multiple copies of those photos to put them in everybody's collection. So that was a problem we definitely wanted to solve. So profiles, that's how we solved it. We took all those collections that we made, and we're going to look at Carrie. So Carrie is one of the current descendants of all of those other people that we made collections for. So there's a lot of overlap in there. She's going to be in a lot of different photographs, a lot of different home movies, and things like that. So where do we put her? We don't have to worry about putting her anywhere. She's connected to all of these collections by individual pieces or group pieces of media. So as long as we index them to carry, it doesn't matter what collection they're in. It's all going to live and breathe within Carrie's profile. So why collections and indexing? Because collections work together and indexing brings it to life and makes it legacy worthy. So if you think about those collections, this is our collections page. This is when I'll throw in the side note that when we journey around in our application, you're going to see these some of these cartoon images. We created an AI family so that you wouldn't know my niece's birth date and home address. So this way I'm able to take them on any journey. So anywho, that's my little side note. So this is our collections page. And you'll see that I've gone ahead and I have checkmarked 5 of these collections. I'm going to go up here to our little menu and I'm going to click Indexer. And that's going to open it in our Indexer page. This is what it looks like when we're indexing individual pieces of media. And you'll see that I've opened 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 collections. Now, I don't have to be stuck there. I can come and go with these collections as I want to. I can close them in any order that I want, and I can open them in any order that I want. And what makes our media really come alive is our indexer. So when I say it makes it a legacy, my favorite example is World War II. If you are tagging media to World War II and you use WW2, and then you pass it on to your next generation and they index it to WWII, and then they pass it on to their next generation and they index it as World War II, those 3 are never going to find each other. They're never going to communicate. So with indexing, we've pre-populated all of these extensive lists for you and made it really easy to index the same way every time. And that way they all talk to each other. Now, if you're staring at my screen and you're looking around, you're going to notice that we also have these tabs. So we take photos, documents, video, and audio. And instead of having to wander around and get interrupted by one or the other when you're working, our application automatically knows whether it's a photo, a document, a video, or an audio, and it will put it in that particular tab. And some of you are saying, wait a minute, sometimes I have documents that are JPEGs. I'm going to show you that fun thing when we get over in the application. So speaking of the application, here we go. So this is our Coral, and when you first log into your archive, this is where you're going to land. You're going to land at your dashboard. The dashboard is kind of the summary of everything that you have going on in your archive. Now, keep in mind that this is an AI family, so I have not generated a whole ton of media. If we go back to my personal archive, these numbers are running off the screen. But this is for demonstration. We're going to look, we have 74 person profiles. We have 9 location. We have 74 people in our address book, and I have 237 pieces of media. Coming soon, we're going to have company profiles, we're going to have JEDCOM, and we're going to have trees. So you can click on this to learn a little bit more about those upcoming things. When you're looking at this section, this is your recently updated. So this is the media that I actually uploaded last night. And these are the people's profiles that I was working on last. I can click on these and see who they are and wander around, not have to search for where I just left off. Your family statistics is just kind of a fun way to look at your entire family. It's life expectancy, our oldest and youngest. We can filter by gender identity if you choose, or living, or all. Little Nathan is our youngest one. We're going to take a look at him today. And then we have common names. Common names can be sorted by first name and last name, male and female, as well as the other gender identities. Then over here are the upcoming events. Now I have no events coming up this week, But this month, I have death anniversaries, birthdays. So this is some of the ways that you can look at your archive as a whole and kind of get that summary overview. But what we're going to talk about is we're going to explore some profiles and we're going to explore some media. Now, on profiles, we have the person and the location, and then we have a whole bunch more all planned out. But these are the two that we're going to deal with right now. When you look at your profile cards, you'll see that we're not just sticking to the blue and the pink gender rings. If you choose to set a gender identity for your people, we're going to reflect that with the appropriate gender flag. Completely up to you. If not, it will default to the sex at birth that you put in. We're going to take a look at Mr. Caleb. So Caleb is one of the profiles that I have built out pretty extensively for these videos. So we're going to start collapsed, just so I don't overwhelm you. I'm very good at overwhelming people. We are on our facts tab. So if we look at the additional names section, this is where you can hold on to just about any kind of name that you come across. My mother's maiden name is Oliger. So you can only imagine how many times I have come across things that have been transcribed incorrectly or alternate spellings for it. My mother had some wonderful nicknames as a child because nobody could spell Oliger. So when you're putting in these, you can also put in not just the type, but you can put notes about it. What I like very much about this is if you come across a document where their prefix has changed and you have a date, that gives you the idea that there was a life event that obviously Caleb went to medical school of some sort. So that was something to explore. Now, all of this becomes searchable and connected in your entire archive. The other thing that we find very helpful, we are very dedicated to the memory keeping space. We're dedicated to photo reminiscence therapy and helping the Alzheimer and the dementia. So not just for me, but for them, if you notice up here under Caleb's profile, it says Caleb Anthony Johnson, but then underneath it, it says CJ. So this can be helpful for people, even if you're just searching for maiden and married names. I can take and I can set his display name as Seattle Sprinter, because that's what Mama remembers him as, and his second name as his full name. So when I come down here and I hit save, it's going to change how he's displayed. So that's also going to be how he's displayed in all of the profile cards moving forward. So you don't have to worry about putting in the parentheses, the maiden name or the married name or any other memory joggers of that person. That all comes from this additional names section. All right, so that was additional names. Vital statistics permanent. Your birth, your death. It's your standard. But we like to allow you to save the journey of trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong, because we all know that we come up with multiple birth dates, multiple birth locations, or we start with something simple and then find something that has more information. And that's where our little verification ribbon comes in. You'll see these three icons throughout our entire application. Verified means that I have gone and I have done my research, and to the best of my knowledge, I believe this to be true. So you can keep all of the other information that you found because it's important and just verify. This is the one that I find to be true and complete. Okay. Variable vital statistics. This is a fun one. I get a lot of questions on this one. This is where you could actually watch a person grow. So if you think about sports physicals as a child, driver's licenses, draft cards, medical evaluations, you start putting that in here and you can start watching a person grow over time. It's also a great way to figure out if you have accidentally put two different people into the same profile. Because if he's 5'3" one day and the next day he's 6'2", you know, I've got two of the same person and I need to start pulling them apart. And you can pull them apart without having to delete and move and change. And I'll show you that in just a moment. So you'll see here, we also have gender identity. You've got your height, your weight, your eye color, your da, 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 da. Your complexion can change over time. Left and right-handed. This one was important to me because there is a story there. If you come across a photo or a document where somebody had both hands at one point in time and now they only have one, was there an accident? Was there a situation that happened that you need to investigate? So it's just another piece of the texture of that person and another clue. Blood type. Yes, blood type can change. If there is a major tragedy and it's a bone marrow transplant, a massive blood transfusion, things like that, blood type can change. So again, it's another clue for investigating. So that's our facts tab. Now we're going to cruise on over here to timeline. So we have 3 sections here. Our life timeline. We believe that people are a whole lot more than birth, marriage, children, and death. You have your hobbies, your clubs, your organizations, you have your school dances, you have your losing your first tooth. There's a whole story about a person's life that isn't held in your typical analytical applications. And, and something that we really like to make sure people understand is that nobody's going to break into your iPhone. Nobody's going to break into your iCloud account and retrieve all of those amazing photos of your children and your grandchildren. You have got to please make a way to preserve that for the future. So this is a way that we have kind of invented in the Archoral world, a digital scrapbook. So every time you have an event that needs to be captured that in analog time you would have created a photo album for, this is your digital photo album. So that's why we take into consideration so much so that you can actually see the context of a person. Yes, I'm passionate about that one. Relationships. So again, at the beginning of this, I mentioned that we have over 14,000 different relationship combinations. And some of you may be saying, oh, yeah, right. When we go back to the presentation, I will show you how that works out and how we do. So again, you can do teachers, fellow athletes, employees, family members, all of that. You can put things in here. And again, there's that verification ribbon. It's everywhere. So if you're not sure that they were a neighbor, you found it on a census, throw them in here, see what kind of connections show up. And if they are true, in fact, you can do the verification ribbon. Let's see. Our next one is storytelling. This one makes me so happy. My mother cannot type so well anymore. So her contributing stories to my archive is very difficult. But what she can do is she can add a story. And that gives me the added benefit of for a recording of her voice with her vocal inflection, her giggle, her laugh, her pauses. That's what tells a story. But it can also be transcribed. We'll automatically transcribe it for you so it becomes searchable within your archive. And to me, there's just an audio recording is so much more than if she were able to just type it out. So let's start looking at those timelines. Let's start looking at that connectivity that I mentioned. So we're going to go back into his timeline. And we are going to look at this one right here. Cultural social celebration, the birth of Nathan, the date, and the location. So what I want to explore now is some of the other buttons that are over here. This is our edit pencil. Edit is not just changing the information. Edit can also be adding media. When you see this one, this is our media indexer icon. Some of them are black, and that means that there's no media against it. I came in here, I clicked add additional, I created a new event, I created a new something that I just wanted to have a placeholder for, that I wanted to hold some information for. And you can see how extensive organizers, vendors, locations, event types, you can go crazy and just hold what you want for later. When that same icon turns blue, That means that there's media in there. When I click it, it's going to open everything that I have indexed to the birth of Nathan in my indexer, where I can start exploring them individually. So here you'll see I have 11 photos. I have 2 documents. I don't have any videos yet, but I do have the audio recording of when Grandma left the voicemail congratulating them to the birth. And instead of just having that static audio icon, I linked some media of Grandma because her favorite food is Halloween. Down here against each piece of media, we have 3 tabs: notes, comments, and storytelling. So notes, I just put one in here that says she always loved Halloween. It was her favorite holiday because the joys the costumes brought the children. Comments section, we have the ability to do topics. I created a topic of my own called research that I put in to use for all of my media. And what this does is it tags something as research and find out what Grandma would dress as a kid for Halloween. Maybe her sister knows. So I'm able to give myself those reminders. And then if you remember the storytelling we did back on the profiles, you can do that against each individual piece of media. So it is really lovely to have one of those collections or 2 of those collections, open them together, sit with a relative, and just go through and just record their story. It's going to say the archivist. So this is Sophia's archive, but I'm able to put in here that the speaker was Alicia. So I know who's telling the story. And it's not just a typed in name. Remember those profile cards? Those profile cards that connect everything to everything? If I start typing, there come the profile cards. Your entire archive is searchable. You don't have to type everybody in at once. And that profile card is going to connect the story. So we're starting to see that circle. Okay. So with this, we have all of these indexer headers. If I'm looking at a letter, I can do correspondence. I can make location profiles, captions. I can do the people, vital records, relationships. We'll find one that has a little bit more later on. But I wanted to show you this. We have the focus person. Remember I changed Caleb's name to Seattle Sprinter? So that's what it now shows in his profile card. I created the event name. I added the attendees, Alicia and Nathan, and the location of Mueller Farmstead. So let's go back into the profile. So his profile card, Seattle Sprinter. Now, just for fun, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to say edit profile. I'm going to change it back to Caleb. And I'm going to change it back to CJ. And I'm going to save it. Okay. So if I go into Caleb's timeline and I go back to birth of Nathan, this is where we started before we looked at the icons. If I click this edit pencil, this is the information that I inputted. Look, now his name is back to Caleb from Seattle Sprinter. So it all stays up to date. When I created this particular timeline event, I created it from the profile and I said, this is the overarching information that I want to resonate through all of the media that I'm going to have attached. So being Caleb, the name of the event, the type of the event, the date, the location, and the attendees. That's all the information that I wanted to attach to all of the media that I was going to upload. So that's all I put in. If I wanted to go much deeper, I absolutely could. Anywhere that you see this, make a selection. This is also a little unique because I started realizing I have thousands of people mentioned in all of these letters. Remember those boxes and boxes and boxes of documents and photos? I'm not sure I want a profile card for every single one of those people. So where we have make a selection, you have the option of person, which is going to give me that searchable profile card dropdown, and I can just click. Or I can use type a name where I can just put in a name. It's going to hold it. It's going to capture it. It's going to preserve it, but it's not going to add another card to the 18,000 or whatever I have in my current archive. It's just placeholder. Same with all of these other selections. Now down here, you'll see attached media. All that I did was drag and drop. I opened my iPhone in a window. I selected the media that I wanted. I drug it right in and boom. Now all of that media gets all of this information. So remember when I was saying that if you make a mistake or you need to separate people, anything like that, since you've indexed media one time, you can come in here and you can change the date. Like, let's say this was actually the 5th. I got it wrong. So we're now saying that the birth of Nathan is March 5th. I've connected it to all of these different profiles. I've attached all of this media and I'm going to hit save. Okay. Let's see what that did as far as connecting. So Caleb's wife, Alicia, I connected to the event. So I'm going to click on her profile card. I haven't done much with her. Shame on me. I'm going to go to the timeline. Here we go. Look, March 5th, the celebration, the birth of Nathan, the location. And then if I open it in the indexer, same exact media, same exact information. So I made one change in one place and it just completely reverberated throughout my entire archive. Now I could come in here and I can start adding details to each one of the pieces of media individually, but I've bulk indexed, I've saved. So when people are thinking about what do I do with my kids' birthdays and the park dates and the play dates and the school plays, you don't have to go ad nauseum. You just have to preserve it. And that's where those timeline entries with basic information comes from. All right. So we have wandered around. Oh, I didn't show you the date picker. Look at me go. All right. Back to Mr. Caleb. I think I opened it and didn't explain it. Shame on me. All right. So we're going to go back here and we're going to look at this date. So you saw me click on date and this typical calendar opened up. It's what we're all used to. Something that drove me batty was having all of those generations of family. I actually have items from the early 18s and the late 1700s in my possession. And nothing drove me more crazy than going click, 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 or scroll, scroll, scroll to get to where I wanted to go. So if you come up here and you click on date and you type in 1748, it recentered to March of 1748. And I'll take the drop down and I'll say September. And then I'll click. It was that easy. No scrolling, no clicking. Now, if I don't know the whole date, you come down here to unsure about the date. You choose about, after, or before. And then everything below it is optional. So it's about 2020. And let's say, I think it was maybe March. You know what? Maybe it was March, but I know that it was summer. So you can have just a year and just a season. Maybe you're looking at a picture and you have absolutely no idea, but it's obvious that it's a bright, sunshiny summer day. You can at least start getting some of that in there. So I'm going to go ahead and submit so that we can see what that looks like about March 2020 in the summer. All right, did I get it all? Well, no, I didn't do the address locator. Thank you for being so patient. Where am I going to put in address? You know what? I'm going to put it in a new one. We're going to go up here to his marathon. And I'm going to edit. Now, I had originally attached this to the Seattle, Washington location profile because I wanted to see everything that was happening in the city. But I want to change it now. So I have the ability to do, just like in the people, I can choose a location profile, or I can just do a map entry that's not going to create me another location profile. So let's see what that looks like. Well, they're both exactly the same. It's just one creates a profile and one doesn't. So if I choose map, you're going to have this, we call this our address locator. So when I grew up at Route 1 Box 1818. And then midway through my childhood, they changed it for the 911 and all of that fun stuff. And I got an actual number and street as an address. So half of my life is at one address, and the other half of my childhood is at another address, but it's the same location. I didn't like that they couldn't find each other. So what I can do now is I come in here, this is connected to Google Maps, and I put in doot, 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 and we're going to say that that's in Cincinnati. So Cincinnati, and there we go. We've dropped the pin. Now I'm going to come down here to vintage, and this is where I'm going to put in Route 1 Box 1818. Now what this is going to do is it's going to save those two as connected locations. It's going to remember that those two addresses are the same. But you know what? What if I don't have any of that? Oh my goodness. Okay. So what about just partial addresses? If I only know the country, I only know the state. Yeah, you know, Google Maps will take just a city, a state, or a country. But what about neighborhoods? What about counties? What about notes about boundary changes, things like that? So all of this information being put in our address locator keeps it all connected, keeps it all going. We were talking about the cyclical relationship. So we looked at how we had the birth of Nathan. It was in his father's profile. We looked at his mom, same exact information in his mom's profile through one entry. It's obviously in his as well. But the fun part is if I go over here to location and I connected it to his location profile, here's the Mueller farmstead. We're in the location profile, birth of Nathan Johnson. And we have the about March 2020 in the summer because we tweaked the date. And if you go to the indexer, ta-da, all from that one entry. So that's what makes profiles make everything interactive, make it all cyclical, because all you have to do is start typing, connect, and then it just spreads. It spreads like wildfire throughout your whole archive. So when you go and you find more information or you find more correct information, you're only going to any one of those spots. You don't have to go back to the original spot. Go back to any one of those spots and adjust the information by using that edit pencil, and it will reverberate throughout the entire archive. You don't have to remember all of the people that you connected it to. It's just gonna do it. Which when you think of those pictures of my warehouse, you understand why I didn't want to have to worry about connecting something over and over and over. Since we're here in the location, let's go ahead and we're going to collapse them just for visual sake. So we've got location lineage. This is your purchase, your inheritance, your bankruptcy, your bank owned, who. So it's that whole thing that we get from City Hall and all of our land acquisition documents. Location history. So here you'll see before 1830, it was in Farm Zone 12. About 1831, they gave it an actual address. I have a document in 1846. Now I may have found that first and all I know it was Lancaster. So this is where you can keep those neighborhoods, those boundary changes, and again, verify as necessary. Location modifications. This one is really important to me because of being on the same property for both my maternal and paternal side for so long. There were changes, there were transitions that happened. When was the barn built? When were the mills put in? When was the huller put in? When was the house added onto? That all tells you a little bit of a journey of the people that were on that property and the evolution of their life as well as the life of the property, because obviously they're intertwined. Location type. This can go, you'll hear me say this a million times, It goes from a lovely grassy valley to somebody pitches a tent, to somebody builds a cabin, they make a farmstead, and then the whole place gets bulldozed and in comes Starbucks. Pieces of dirt have transitions in life, just like people do. It's just theirs aren't confined to, you know, 8 or 9 decades if we're lucky. It's eons for what a piece of dirt can do. Now, when I have all these collapsed, you don't get to see this button here. This is also in all of the profiles. So this information either magically appeared when I was indexing individual pieces of media or when I inputted them here in the timeline. This is how all of this information gets put in. So those are our facts, our timeline. Again, every single event, it doesn't matter what it was, it's all the story and all of the connection for that property. Our storytelling with our transcriptions is all in here. You can just go crazy. This linked profiles, this is one of my favorites. This is how you really get to see how a piece of dirt reverberated throughout a community. So anytime I had an entry where I put in additional people or attendees or vendors, anything like that, they get connected to that location profile. And this starts showing you, Alicia was an attendee. Over here, you'll see that they start getting these little blue bubbles. So Heinrich was a property owner. He was also an attendee, and he also died there. I had to make my mouse really big for this presentation. I promise you, if it's normal size, you can read it. So if you think about these bubbles, if you go back to a real archive, to my personal archive, these numbers start to be hundreds, thousands, because you're connecting to your environment. And there are people that I have discovered that I didn't realize had that much of a relationship to each other until I came to the location. And I started seeing that they're alive during the same time frame. And those numbers were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So there was a connection there that I needed to explore to learn a little bit more about my people. And that's one of the fun little byproducts of this. Both the person and the location profile have all of your media. This is all the media that's been attached to this particular location. You can see AI's gotten better since I started this. And then your map is going to show you where it is. Stay tuned. Next couple of weeks, our maps are going to get really, really cool. Goodness, I'm running out of time. Hopefully you guys will stick around with me. Media is not going to take as long for me to go through for you. Our upload media is the same as drag and drop. And when you bring in your media, you can upload 500 pieces of media, even if they all belong in different collections, because you organize before you actually save. So upload all your folders, your subfolders, all of that. Take your entire drive, jump it in there, go have a cup of coffee while it uploads, because that's just the internet. And when you come back, you can automatically arrange it into your collections and get moving forward. You don't have to do this one piece at a time, because I didn't have time for one piece at a time. So my media is going to be the whole thing. You're going to have your recent uploads unassigned. This is the stuff that I've been bad girl and I haven't organized it yet, but I can certainly do so. I could come in here and I can check a whole bunch of these and I can move them and put them in Caleb's. And also subfolders are absolutely possible. And I can move the media. So that's just a reminder that you haven't done that yet. Collections. This is where we started at the very beginning, where you have all of your multiple collections. So when you go in here and let's say you have done a couple of folders and you've uploaded that bulk stuff, right? So this is Caleb and Alicia's wedding. I'm going to double click on this. I can take this video and these photos, and instead of doing it, indexing it one at a time over there in the indexer, I can come up here and I can say bulk. And I can put in the event details. It's a union ceremony, so it's a wedding, the ceremony type. I can name all the officiants, the ceremony members, give their titles. Gives me really that in-depth understanding of the relationship of everyone there. I can also just quickly index it to a location. So My favorite way is to do it from the profile and drag it in that way. But everybody's mind works differently. So if you want to do it from the media standpoint, folder by folder, you could absolutely do it that way here. All over the application, you're going to see these. This tells you how many photos, documents, video, and audio are in each one of your folders. So if I go back here, see how it's all mixed? I could say, I just want to look at my documents. What are all the documents I have in here? What are all the audio files I have in here? So it works the same way as the separation tabs that are in the indexer. It allows you to minimize the noise and look at what it is that you want to look at. Okay, I am going to get back to the relationship builder because I really want you to see that before some of you need to drop off. There are a whole lot of videos from past webinars that go a lot deeper into each one of these sections, and I welcome you to go and explore and come back for some more webinars. We have 2 a week, I think, for a while. Okay, so we're going to come back here for a little bit, and we're going to explore familial and non-familial relationships. We believe that every person touches the people around you. Your family is not necessarily the people that gave birth to you. The people that shape you are the ones that you spend all your time with. So it's all about the people. That's the whole thing. It doesn't matter what kind of people. So I've kind of broken them down into some groups. You have your biological, your DNA, right? Then you have your chosen, your adoptions, your fosters, your guardianships. These are people that choose to care for one another. Your complex is your donors, your half, your step, all of that kind of one step away family. Meritable, your spouses, your partners, your in-laws. They're all part of the story. Then there's your invited. So a lot of people don't really get crafted by their actual family. It's when they go out into the world and they start finding their people. That's when they start becoming somebody. So chosen and found family is very important. So then you have the relationships, right? So we start with our standard mother, father, parent, child, but we also have conservatives, wards, guardians, things like that. You'll also notice that in each one of these lists, if you can read the little type on your screen, you'll see that we have things like aunt, uncle, and pibling. I learned something new. Pibling is the gender neutral for aunt/uncle. So if you don't know, or if you prefer to use gender neutral, it's all there for you. So then we have the great grands, the second greats, the third greats, the fourth greats, the fifth greats, and then the cousin chart. So yes, all of these are standard, but the point of me showing you this is each one of these can be made in whatever order you find them. You don't have to grow the tree. So if I find somebody that is my half fifth great grandmother on my father's side, but I don't know the connections in between, you can catch it. And then as you start making those connections, it'll start snapping together like great little magnets forming your tree. So we have all of these going all the way up to the fifth great grands. Then we have all of those different groups, the biological, chosen, complex, marital, invited. Then you start putting in your spouse, your partner, your God family. You start looking at your academic relationships, your business relationships, your personal relationships. This is where that fan club comes in. Your friends, your neighbors, your dentist, your coach, they're all pivotal people. Then on top of that, we have another layer that is the relationship status. Annulled, emancipated, divorced, terminated. What is the status of said relationship? So you start putting those three things together and you start thinking about all the combinations. There's over 14,000 different combinations. And this is another thing I'd like you to keep your eye on for the future. Our community's been doing a great job having us expand this list. So using the relationship builder, this is one thing that I like people to actually see, because when you're just looking at it on the screen, it looks a little complicated. But once you get the idea of it, it seems to make sense. So if I'm here in Caleb's profile and I want to add an additional relationship, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. That is going to open my relationship builder. So with this, we're on Caleb's profile. So he is the focus person. The related person, I put in there Robert Thompson. So my focus person to my related person, then my related person to my focus person. So you say, why are you doing that? If it's a mother, it's a child. Not necessarily, because someone may say, this is my mother, but I'm her ward. I'm not her biological child. We're never going to assume the reciprocal relationship or whether it is gender specific or gender neutral. Also, when we get into things like friends, associates, and neighbors, the reciprocal relationship is not an automatic one that we should fill in for you. You should tell us what that relationship is. So if we go back to the indexer and we look at, we can do relationships here too, but this one is a little bit different since we're not on a profile. It's the same list. The only difference is focus person and related person are at the top because there's no profile that we're sitting on. So the focus person, I've chosen to be Maya, the baby. The related person, I've chosen to be Michael, the father. Then I'm going to say the relationship and all of that detail, I'm going to fill out here. This form is the same no matter where you are in our system. So if I've already chosen a focus person as Maya and the related person is Michael, my next step is to go through that list. So I'm going to say they're familial. I'm going to say they're biological. And the role relation, focus person Maya to related person Michael, she is the child. Then I'm going to go down one more step. And this is where I can say son, daughter, ward. In this case, I'm just going to say child because maybe I don't know. Then when you move down to the next, related person to focus, it's already going to have in there that parent guardian is the reciprocal type, but you're going to choose father. And then you have the ability to do relationship status or anything like that. So what you've done is you've created that reciprocal relationship and a cute little happy family. That was by accident and I couldn't pass it up. So that's our relationship builder. And once you start getting the hang of it, it becomes very intuitive. But sometimes you're going to make your mom your daughter and you your mom. I promise you it will happen. But once you start getting the flow for it, you'll understand why we're not going to assume who is who. Okay, I can do a little recap and some of the stuff I may have missed. So if there's something on here that you want me to go back to, or you want some deeper explanation, I am here all day. So we learned about the origin of Archoral and how it's based on solving my personal problem. We explored the foundation of how it works with the person profiles and capturing free-form data. Just put it in there. You may not know the dates. You may not know the location. It's just a memory jogger. It's consider it a Post-it note. We looked at our date picker, how you can modify the calendar quickly and do our unsure about dates. We learned how you can index in bulk by dragging and dropping. Now, we only drag and dropped into a timeline event. You can do that in any of those. If you have someone that had a stage name and you have a whole folder of digitized playbills, when you put in that stage name and the reason for it, and you have that edit pencil open, you can drag all of those playbills in as proof to the stage name. So again, those three icons, the verification, the edit, and the media indexer are everywhere on the application and they all work exactly the same. We then looked at location profiles. We toured the address locator, which I think we did in the person profiles, but I got a little off track. And then the connectivity between the media and the profiles, how you can go from the media collections and bulk index it back into the profile, how you can index the details. We looked at our relationship builder, capturing familial and non-familial. Oh, look at that one. That was out of order. So that's our coral in a really long, over 60-minute explanation. There is a lot that I actually didn't have time to get to. This is really a passion project, and I want our coral to do for everyone else what it has done for me and that giant warehouse of family history. I want that joy for everyone else. So we're here to help. And thank you so much for spending all of this time with me. I really appreciate you. So have a great Tuesday and happy archiving.